What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to our Bible study. All right. So, we're going to be looking into Numbers chapter 33 right now, which seems like it's going to kind of be a recap of man, I can't talk right now. Seems like it's going to recap a lot of what happened before this. Specifically, the stuff after the Israelites left Egypt. Which could be going back all the way to, like, mid-late-ish Exodus. All the way up to this point in the Bible. And it does seem like these last few chapters are really getting into, okay, here's the last few bits of, like, preparation before, the Israelites cross the Jordan and go into the Promised Land. So I don't know if there's really too much else to explain in terms of context, because, again, this is a recap. This will be giving the context, basically. So here we go. Numbers chapter 33. This is the route the Israelites followed as they marched out of Egypt under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. At the Lord's direction, Moses kept a written record of their progress. These are the stages of their march, identified by the different places where they stopped along the way. They set out from the city of Ramesses in early spring, on the 15th day of the first month, on the morning after the first Passover celebration. The people of Israel left defiantly, in full view of all the Egyptians. Meanwhile, the Egyptians were burying all their firstborn sons, whom the Lord had killed the night before. The Lord had defeated the gods of Egypt that night with great acts of judgment. Okay. Pausing there real quick. So, yeah. Passover wasn't just any celebration. That was, like, the day that the 10th plague came over Egypt, and they were painting lamb's blood on the doorposts. Painting, I don't know if painting is the best word, but, yeah, that was the last of the 10 plagues that befell Egypt. But the Israelites were commanded to, put blood on the doorposts, and the angel of death would pass over them, thus Passover. Otherwise, if there wasn't blood there, it was going into all the houses in Egypt and killing the firstborn sons. So yeah, that's also, like, the day after that was when they finally left Egypt, because I guess that was finally Pharaoh's tipping point of, all right, fine, there's been enough damage, you can go. Even though he later kind of changed his mind a little bit and tried to pursue them again, didn't succeed, but whatever. Footnote there, about 15th day of the first month. This day in the ancient Hebrew lunar calendar occurred in late March, April, or early May. Again, with being a lunar calendar that works in a different way, that's a big reason for the variation there. So that was where they started their journey away from Egypt. And I'm also just realizing it completely had not said previously that, the Lord had directed Moses to keep a written record. Not surprising. Kind of the main reason we have that journey being chronicled so well, but yeah. And that's also why we're pretty sure Moses was the primary writer of the first 5 books of the Bible. Maybe not the entirety of it, but at least most of it. So anyway, so then after all that, we get to verse 5 to continue their journey. After leaving Ramesses, the Israelites set up camp at Succoth. Then they left Succoth and camped at Etham, I don't know, on the edge of the wilderness. They left Etham and turned back toward Pi Hahiroth, opposite Baal Zephon, and camped near Migdal. Apologies if I'm butchering pronunciations. This is very Americanized. I'm not super knowledgeable on what all those are supposed to be. I'm trying to at least make them sound coherent, though. Verse 8. They left Pi Hahiroth and crossed the Red Sea into the wilderness beyond. Then they traveled for 3 days into the Etham wilderness and camped at Marah. They left Marah and camped at Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees. They left Elim and camped beside the Red Sea. They left the Red Sea and camped in the wilderness of Sin, or perhaps it should be pronounced Sine, because the footnote here says the geographical name Sin, or Sine, whichever it's actually supposed to be, is related to Sinai and should not be confused with the English word sin, as in, like bad stuff that God doesn't like. So it's not like you can say that they were in the wilderness of disobeying God. That's not where that's derived from. Other footnotes I passed by. That one, that's just as in many Hebrew manuscripts, Samaritan Pentateuch, and Latin Vulgate. Most Hebrew manuscripts read left from in front of Hahiroth. Okay, rather than footnote there at Red Sea just says the sea. I mean, that's the one that would have been near Egypt anyway, and certainly the one that they crossed over. And you see, Hebrew there says Sea of Reeds. So you know for sure when it says Sea of Reeds, or Sea of Reeds in Hebrew would have meant the Red Sea. Here where it says the sea, it's kind of implied that it would be the Red Sea because that was the sea that they crossed to get away from Egypt. Verse 12, there's just going to be a lot of they left this place and camped here throughout the rest of the chapter. So, verse 12, they left the wilderness of Sin and camped at Dophkah. They left Dophkah and camped at Alush. They left Alush and camped at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. They left Rephidim and camped in the wilderness of Sinai. They left the wilderness of Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattava. They left Kibroth Hattava and camped at Hazeroth. They left Hazeroth and camped at Rithmah. They left Rithmah and camped at Rimmon Perez. They left Rimmon Perez and camped at Libnah. Libnah. They left Libnah and camped at Rissa. They left Rissa and camped at Kehelatha. Sure, that's what I'm going with. They left Kehelatha and camped at Mount Shepher. Left Mount Shepher and camped at Haradah. Left Haradah and camped at Machheloth. They left Machheloth and camped at Tehath. They left Tehath and camped at Terah. They left Terah and camped at Mithkah. I really kind of wish they would include some time frames, like how long were they camped at this place versus a different place. Anyway. I think I left it off at Mithkah. So they left Mithkah and camped at Hashmonah. Left Hashmonah and camped at Moseroth. Or Moseroth, I don't know. Left Moseroth and camped at B'nai Jakin? Or B'nai Jakin? I don't know. Left there and camped at Hor Haggadad. Whoa, hold up. There's too many consonants in that one. Hor Haggadad. They left there and camped at... Okay, so I know a lot of J's are actually like y sounds in Hebrew. So like Yotbatha. Left Yotbatha and camped at Abrana. Left Abrana and camped at Ezion Geber. Left Ezion Geber and camped at Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin. So after all those places, we get to verse 37. They left Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor at the border of Edom. While they were at the foot of Mount Hor, Aaron the priest was directed by the Lord to go up the mountain, and there he died. This happened in midsummer on the first day of the 5th month of the 40th year after Israel's departure from Egypt. Aaron was 123 years old when he died there on Mount Hor. Footnote about 5th month. This day in the lunar calendar occurred in July or August. So it calls that the 5th month. This was the first month up here, occurring in March, April, or May. That is definitely not a 5-month time difference. But again, lunar calendar, it works very different. Like even if you went March, April, May, June, July, okay, kind of maybe 5 months there if you're going from the early part of it, but if you go towards the end of the possible range of this in early May, then you've got May, June, July, August. You're not reaching 5 months as we think of it there. But again, Hebrew lunar calendar, it works different. I think we were at verse 40 then. So, it's, for context of verse 40, right around the time when Aaron died, verse 40, at that time, the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev in the land of Canaan, heard that the people of Israel were approaching his land. Meanwhile, the Israelites left Mount Hor and camped at Zalmanah. Then they left Zalmanah and camped at Punon. They left Punon and camped at Oboth. They left Oboth and camped at Iye Abarim on the border of Moab. They left Iye Abarim and camped at Dibon Gad or Dibon Gad. I don't know. They left Dibon Gad and camped at Almon Diblathaim. They left Almon Diblathaim and camped in the mountains east of the river near Mount Nebo. They left the mountains east of the river and camped on the plains of Moab beside the Jordan River, across from Jericho. Along the Jordan River, they camped from Beth Yeshimoth as far as the meadows of Acacia on the plains of Moab. Footnotes. Where are the footnotes? That one. Left camped in the mountains east of the river, or rather than saying the mountains east of the river, it would have said, or the mountains of Abarim, which would signify that it was close to a different place that was mentioned in this mix, right? I'm losing track of where Abarim was mentioned in that mix. But anyway, footnote there at the meadows of Acacia, Hebrew says as far as Abel Shittim. But yeah, different names because translation. But they were on the plains of Moab by the Jordan River across from Jericho. And that's pretty much where they currently are, as, you know, at the spot at which we're kind of reading this in the story, to my knowledge. So, verse 50. While they were camped near the Jordan River on the plains of Moab, opposite Jericho, the Lord said to Moses, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. When you cross the Jordan River into the land of Canaan, you must drive out all the people living there. You must destroy all their carved and molten images and demolish all their pagan shrines. Take possession of the land and settle in it, because I have given it to you to occupy. You must distribute the land among the clans by sacred lot and in proportion to their size. A larger portion of land will be allotted to each of the larger clans, and a smaller portion will be allotted to each of the smaller clans. The decision of the sacred lot is final. In this way, the portions of land will be divided among your ancestral tribes. But if you fail to drive out the people who live in the land, those who remain will be like splinters in your eyes and thorns in your sides. They will harass you in the land where you live, and I will do to you what I had planned to do to them. Yeah, that turns out to be a bit prophetic there. But, we'll wait until we actually get to those moments to actually get into detail on that. But, safe to say, God wants the Israelites to drive out all of the, people groups currently living in Canaan. A, so the land will be theirs, and B, so the current residents don't try and, lead them astray. And then, of course, the land's going to be allotted to the different tribes. And I guess it's supposed to get divvied out based on the size of the clans, which makes sense. And, so that's where we leave things off for the moment, and that kind of wraps things up for Chapter 33. Not too much else to say since it was a recap. Okay, so pretty much just a retelling of where all geographically the Israelites went, although it's based on older names, so translating that into modern times is going to be a little bit more difficult. I would imagine there's somebody out there who knows a bit better about these kinds of things and could kind of map it out, but I am not that person. But yeah, and then I guess that was about it for the chapter. Just little bits of, oh yeah, here's this big thing that happened along the way. Anyway, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get updates when I post new videos. Look down in the description to get info on other social media pages and all that good stuff. And leave comments below there with any thoughts you have. That's it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you for the next video. But until then, stay cool, people.